going on, gamers? I hope you checked out my 100% real YouTube tutorial. Um, and yeah, we're back here with finishing up this lesson on basic Boolean expressions and if statements. So the goal, you're going to have a choice of one of two options. 17 is more straightforward, more of it is done. 18 is a chance for you to build it up from scratch and practice that. I'll give you the option of which one to do. So how can we practice conditionals? That's just a fancy word for the true-false statement inside the if statement. So like age greater than 6, it's a conditional. Time less than 4, that's a conditional. Secret password equals bacon, that's a conditional. How can we practice conditionals and Boolean expressions on a more complex app? Google question, do by 5. Code Studio, do by 10. Choose one of the two options. This is a more involved example than something that is just given to you. Like I'm going to show you it. I'm going to give you examples before, but we practiced it yesterday, and this is your chance to do it with a little less guidance from me. So this will count as a content task. Because remember, we now have this grading policy of classwork, lower stakes, content task, slightly more involved or less like me showing you how to do it, and then assessments. For those who didn't do as well on the first quiz, we will have another quiz on if statements probably next Tuesday or Wednesday. Okie dokie. Cool. Let's jump into Code Studio. No reason to beat around the bush. We do have a required Zoom class Friday. Okay, so I'm going to start off actually at number 14. I probably should have just assigned this yesterday for work, but it also serves as a good sort of do now starter and showing how this works again. So you did something very similar yesterday, just with if statements. In this one, we're going to use if else. See, the idea is when we run this, right now, I don't think it's going to do anything yet. It's all messed up. It says you do not need to change anything here, so we're going to ignore this. And on the login button, it wants us to add an if else statement. Okay, and it's like the password checker. So what it wants us to do, we have some kind of a condition. If something, then do this or that. When thinking about if statements, it really plays like English. So just ask yourself, what do I want this to do in plain English? Well, if I type the right word in here, when I click login, I want it to show the unlock thing if I'm right, and I want it to show the lock thing if I'm wrong. Right? I want to show the lock if I'm right, and the lock thing, the unlock if I'm right, the lock if I'm wrong. So I can see this, and we also have some text here too that goes with it. So if I get it correct, if the password is correct, I want it to say access granted, green lock, good. If it's wrong, else, I want it to show the red lock. That's all you really need to do. Ask yourself the question, what do I want it to do? If it's true, and if this is correct, so now we'll build that out. If this is the same as my secret, so I'm going to put in an equal to the secret, because that's what that means. Password is the same as my secret. Let me say it's bacon, not Baskin, bacon, the capital B. That's my password. And then I need to use the get text to get text from this text input. This is why I never had to use text input, because it's actually useful. Get text from, what's this thing called? Password something. Drop down menu, password input. If my password input is equal to the keyword bacon or eggs or whatever you want to call it, I want it to show access granted, otherwise access denied. and do this. Plug it in yourself, follow along here. This should work. Access granted. But if I type in now bacon, access denied. Why? Oh, because you have to click. Oh, okay, I see what this is doing. Okay. Eggs, click on it again, it'll clear. Okay. Got a little surprised, but then I had to read the code to see what this was doing. Access denied. This should really be red. Poor UI, but other than that, this is a prime example of if-else statements. It's pretty cool, uses getting text, very fun. You might start thinking of some ideas for a project you want to do eventually. But that's all. We can finish that. This is just tutorial, it's not graded. Drop-down menus is something that you can use if you like, and past today you never have to see them again if you don't want to. But they're another element. They work just like text input, just like labels, just like pictures. The only thing that's different is that instead of text, you have options you can write. And there's a special event, unlike click or type or like input or something like that, or like key press or something. Change is the main event for a dropdown. I mean, you can read this. This is whatever. This is fine. You can get text from a drop-down menu. Yeah, whatever. You can read that. Okay, so I'm going to walk this through with you just to show you building this up from scratch. And you can do as I do, and then you'll have an option of which project you want to do. So I'm just doing this as you would do faced with blank. We have nothing, except it's already designed for us, which is really nice. So we have this screen, we have a label, we have a drop-down menu, we have some labels. Oh, sorry. Oh, what is a label? Interesting. So we want to do a movie age checker. Pretty simple. We have the starting UI elements, but not the code. Okay. When stuck with this, and it has do this, don't panic, just read. Using the examples on the previous page as a guide, so you could go back and read this. Add an event handler for the drop-down menu that triggers on change. On event, drop down, change. Age drop down, change. Okay. Add an if statement to check if the age chosen from the dropdown is greater than or equal to 13, and set the text in the result label to be something. Okay. Add an if statement, greater than or equal to 13, greater than or equal to, age chosen, interesting, greater than or equal to 13. We don't have a variable. It's not telling me to make a variable, though I could. I could say, oh, it doesn't even give me the option. It's limiting it, so you have a better idea. But what can I do? You could go back and look and read the example. Or you could be a programmer like me and get the number. So get number from the age dropdown. Just like get text, get a number that you can compare. If the age is over 13 or over, set the text to say you are old enough to see a PG-13 movie. I don't want to type that, so I'm going to copy paste it because I'm lazy. Control C, Control V. I want to set text for result label. Set text. Remember, get gets, set sets. That was a useless hand gesture. But haiku, you gotta have a setter. So set the text of result label. Result label, text of you are old enough to see the movie. Otherwise, else, that's what triggers for otherwise. Otherwise, you are not old enough to see it. Set text, you are not old enough to see it. ID, result label. Tip, use get number instead of get text. I'm a pro gamer, so I already knew that. One major difference is that we want to compare the value. Yeah, that's true. So this is a number. If you did get text, it's a minor difference. But if you did get text, this is actually kind of useful. I didn't think I would explain this, but get text, it returns a string. So in this case, it would return like 14 in quotes, which is like the ASCII characters 1-4. The computer doesn't know this is a number because they're dumb. But get number returns a number. So it returns 14. What's the difference, you may say? If I wanted to do get text, get text, some stuff, plus 3, that would get me this text, 1-4, and then 3 added to the end. Alternatively, if I wanted to use get number, there's stuff in there, plus 3. The computer knows that this is a number now, and so it would give me 17. So this is, if this is confusing, don't really worry about it. It can be fun to know if you're using this for a game later. It does reinforce what we talked about before with text, strings, and numbers. But it's a fun little thing. Let's make sure it works. Yeah, it kind of works with get text, but it's sloppy and bad things can happen. Like this would happen. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Okay, so select an age. What's an age that can't see a movie? Thank you, 6. You are not old enough to see a movie. Okay, cool. What's an age that can see a movie? That's right, 17. You are old enough. And then just to check the edge case, 13, you are old enough. It got activated whenever I changed this. That's what change means. Change means that I changed this. Cool. So let me show you what you are doing. You have the choice of looking at a scrolling thing. You have a choice. Very similar here. You can do, based on this pretty complicated code that I will walk you through, you can, it's mostly complete, and you just have to add in an if-else statement in there. This is the more straightforward one. The other option is a little bit more interesting and more like number 16. So it's also ironic given the coronavirus, but make an app that says whether you to stay home or go to school. Your app, despite it being accurate, your app cannot say stay home for every day, even though you should stay home right now. Pretend we're in a better world than we are in right now. You know what this is trying to do. It is funny though, ironic. So this one's more involved, but I don't think it's difficult. It's just a matter of you have to build it up from nothing and practice that. You can just do both too. I don't think that they're particularly difficult. But it's harder than just a random thing. So back to 17, I'll just take a moment to walk through what you have because it looks worse than it is. So if you're scared by this, don't worry. So we only have one screen. It's a guessing game. You have a drop-down menu, you have a button, it has an ID where it displays stuff, And then you have a frowny and a trophy stacked on top of each other, and then a score somehow. So like all things, you can run it to see if it does anything. It just won't work right. Okay, let's run it. 2, roll the dice. Okay, yeah, it's not working, but it's doing something. So it's showing me, it's rolling a dice, and it's showing me a number here, it seems. And it looks like that my score, I don't know how this is calculated, but it looks like it's changing. Okay, and you can make a guess. It starts over. That's cool. Okay. There's a reset function. Okay, cool. They have a function here. We haven't seen a function in a while. You don't need to change this. We need to add an if statement inside this event handler. Okay, so we need to look in here. Cool stuff. There's some guidance in there with comments. And then you don't need to modify that. Cool. So it resets when the dropdown. That's cool. Add an if-else statement in the roll button event handler. And then again, it uses that language of if and otherwise, just in plain English. I'll let you figure that out. I'll let you explore this roll button and figure out what to do. If you see it, it's fast. If you don't see it, you have to read it a little closely. 18 is pretty fun too. Okay.